Do you remember your first chess game? Maybe it was on one of those plastic boards, light pieces. Nothing that really felt good in your hand. Then one day, you touch a real set. Heavy wood, soft leather. That solid snap when the piece lands. You feel the difference instantly, but I didn't want to spend thousands. So I built one that feels like $5,000 for only 300 bucks. Let me show you how. Everything starts here in our workshop in Vietnam. The first thing we want to build is the box. We begin with the base. We went with walnut for its rich grain, warm tone, and a silky finish when polished. Luxury sets often use ebony or rosewood. Gorgeous, yes, but they can cost hundreds of dollars. Walnut gives us that same premium feel. With the right people, it'll look and feel just as high-end as the most expensive sets in the world. We're trimming down a block of walnut into long side rails. These rails will frame the box, made of two parts, the lid and the base. We've got our side rails cut, but they're still rough and uneven. So now they go through the sanding machine. This smooths every surface and makes sure all the rails are even. Next, we adjust the saw blade and cut a line along the rail. Then, we remove a small strip of wood from the rail, leaving a groove inside. Later, this groove will hold a thin flat board. For the bottom rail, we first cut a deep, wide groove along the rail. Then, we make a second cut, shallower and narrower than the first. Finally, we remove the smaller section based on this second cut, creating the rail shape you see here. I move on to trimming the ends. I measure each piece carefully. Just 1 degree mistake can ruin the fit. Then I cut the ends at a slight angle so everything locks together perfectly. With the ends of the rail cut, it's time to add a small magnet. I pick a straight router bit wide enough for the magnet, then mark the exact position on the rail. Using the drill, I carve out a neat slot with rounded ends so the magnet will sit flush and secure. The lid rail is done. I repeat the process for the bottom rail, making sure each magnet will align perfectly.
Okay.
Now I fit a magnet into each slot. One for the lid rail, one for the bottom rail. The magnets must face the right way, or instead of attracting, they'll push each other apart. I tap them in gently so they sit flush, then lock them in place with a drop of instant adhesive. Now comes the satisfying part, putting everything together. I start with a coat of wood glue on the fur rail and attach it to the flat panel. Then, I do the same for all the rails, locking it into place on all sides. I wrap the 4 rails with a rubber band to pull them inward. Then, I place a plastic frame inside the rails. This pushes outward, balancing the pressure from the band. The 2 forces lock the rails perfectly in place. Next, I seal each corner joint with a mix of sawdust and fast-setting glue. Remember, never throw your sawdust away. Once it's secure, I remove the frame and the band, and the lid is complete. The same happens for the bottom rails, but with extra glue for extra strength. Since it's the same steps, I'll speed this part up. But the lid and the bottom do not fit. I start by running both pieces through the sanding machine to smooth and level the surfaces. Then I switch to this flat router bit, which lets me carefully trim down the raised edges around the locking area. I take off a little material at a time, test the fit, and repeat until the lid and bottom slide together seamlessly. For a touch of detail, I cut thin bronze rails to size. Then carefully place them along the inside edges of the lid. Next, I use a laser cutter to burn precise grid lines for the chessboard. Once it's done, I mount this panel directly onto the inside of the lid. With the panel attached, the box goes to sanding. She sands every surface, outside and inside. Any dried glue at the corners gets cleaned off. She also sands the bronze rails so they shine. It's a lot of work, but this is where the luxury feel comes from. To bring out the wood's natural pattern, I brush on a finishing liquid. I make sure the layer is even, not too thick and not too thin. I coat both the inside and outside of the box for a consistent, beautiful finish. Then, I let it dry for a full day. For the chessboard surface, we chose high-quality black and white leather. I first apply glue to the entire wooden grid surface 2 times, letting it rest for a few seconds so it becomes sticky. Then, I apply glue to each leather square before placing it exactly into position. This step needs a steady hand and careful eyes, because even a small shift can make the whole board look uneven or not straight. When all the squares are in place, I use a tool made from buffalo horn to press along the edges. Then, I roll over the entire board with a heavy roller, pressing it evenly so the leather sticks perfectly. I mark the spot for the tag, place the bronze tag, drill 2 small holes, tap in the screws to secure it. And done with my shiny brand tag? Next, I make the chess pieces. I use resin and a silicone mold. First, pick the mold for the Pour the clear liquid and black liquid into a cup. Mix them well. Slowly pour the mix into the mold. Pour at the same speed to avoid small bubbles. Put the mold into a pressure pot. The pressure removes air bubbles and makes the piece smooth. Leave it for a day. Tomorrow, take the piece out, rinse it, and sand it. We now going to make some add-ons for our chess piece, because only black and white are boring, right? First, we spray a protective coat. Spray the tiny pieces that will decorate the top of the chess piece, and also the bronze base for the bottom. After that, we will attach these onto the chess piece. Let's see how we do it. And here it is, the finished chess set. Something that could cost over $5,000 if you bought it, made right here for just $300. Every curve, every detail, shaped and polished by hand. Proof that luxury can be crafted without the luxury price.